What's going on, guys? It's Aiden with Upper James Toyota, and today we put together a little compilation of my favorite vehicles over $60,000. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future Toyota related content, and we'll check you guys out in the next video. Whether you guys are looking for your next vehicle or just an existing client of ours, don't forget to mention that you've seen our videos online for a special YouTube-only incentive. Our largest full-size SUV, which is a 2025 Sequoia. Now, this being a platinum model, it's pretty high up on the trim level. We're gonna take a closer peek to see what this vehicle offers you inside and out. So stay tuned and let's check it out. Let's talk powertrain on the 2025 Sequoia. So this is powered by a 3.4 liter twin turbo V6. It's gonna be pushing out 437 horsepower, 583 pound-feet of torque through a 10-speed automatic gearbox. Now, this is going to be our most powerful powertrain that we currently offer in our lineup. And for a vehicle at this size, it definitely gives you a lot of capabilities on the towing side, on the power side, and just getting up to speed, which is pretty cool to be having from a manufacturer like Toyota. Now let's talk about the front end to start. This is gonna be featured in Supersonic Red, which to be honest is not gonna be my #1 choice in color. However, I do think this color actually looks pretty good on this vehicle with all of the dark accents, which we'll be going over throughout the video. Now, looking at the front end design, your headlights to start with, that is a triple beam LED with sequential turn signals, which in my opinion is going to be the nicest style and the best visibility you'll be getting off of any of our headlights that are offered throughout our lineup. A couple things on the vehicle that I'm gonna point out that I'm maybe not going to be the biggest fan of, but they are gonna be coming standard on this package. Now, looking down below, you're going to have this big plastic piece. And if you see my previous videos, you know I'm not a huge fan of plastic. Now, this is what they call an active front spoiler. You can remove these. There's a couple different clips on the bottom half of this, and this is offered on a Tacoma as well. Now, they say it's supposed to be increasing your fuel efficiency. However, I think I'd be taking it off to actually challenge to see what you would average between, having this active front spoiler on or off the vehicle, because for me, it's kind of an eyesore on the front end. And for me, if you're getting up to any close, tight parking spots, because this vehicle is coming in as probably our largest SUV, it's gonna be close to the 4Runner size when the new 2025s actually arrive here. However, this is going to be something that you don't have much ground clearance off of. So I think that if you're pulling into a smaller spot, maybe that could give you maybe a few different issues when you are parking this vehicle, and something that obviously you wouldn't want to be breaking on a vehicle coming in at this price point. Now, the one thing I will be saying that I do like is going to this massive front grille. Now, I know it does have a little bit of chrome on this vehicle throughout, and I know as a platinum grade, the platinum badging is going to have a little bit of extra chrome. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of it. I wish it was all black like they offer on a nightshade version of this vehicle, but for me, it's not the end of the world because they've kind of kept it more minimal than obviously some other vehicles that we have in our lineup. Now, this being our biggest SUV, yeah, you can see that from the front end, this is huge. It's the one vehicle that I'm next to, just like a Tundra, that actually makes me feel a little bit smaller when I am next to it. And definitely on the inside, if you're a bigger family or you just want a lot of space, this could definitely be a vehicle for you. Now, interesting enough, on this vehicle, they're offering now a Sequoia, which will come optional with power retractable tow mirrors. Now, these will push all the way out just in case you are towing anything, because a Sequoia here in Canada does come tow ready. You take off a back clip on your rear bumper. With these tow mirrors, you can push them out and you're clear to tow up to about 9,100 pounds, which is pretty good. So if you got, a larger boat, you're hauling a trailer, anything like that, this could be a very well-equipped vehicle for you. Now, on the sides, my favorite feature of this vehicle, there's gonna be actually two of them. #1 is going to these 20-inch dark gray, or yeah, I guess I'd call it a gray alloy wheel. Now, this looks really good on this vehicle, and I think that obviously having a larger rim on a vehicle at this size is something that I would be opting in for. You could be upgrading to even 21-inch on a capstone model. Those rims would probably be my favorite out of any Sequoia rims that you can get from the factory, but I would be more than happy with these ones here. Now, the other feature I'm a huge fan of is going to be once you're on the side of this vehicle. You can obviously see it says platinum badging on the side, and it kind of has some of that dark chrome, but it's not the actual, bright chrome like you see on the front grille. But when you actually get over to the side of the vehicle, you open the door and your power folding retractable running boards will come out for you. And then as you close the door, they will obviously then retract back up to the side of the vehicle. You can turn that feature on and off just in case, you're next to a curb, something like that, or say it's super, super icy. You didn't want to damage anything. You can turn that off. But I think having a vehicle already coming equipped with that gives you a lot of value for money in the price point that a new Sequoia will run you. Okay, now taking a closer look onto the rear end of the Sequoia, you're in this vehicle because Toyota has opted in to give you some very large badging on the rear end of this vehicle. And as you can see, Sequoia written all the way on the bottom of your trunk. And I'm happy Toyota has done that because typically they opt in to put something smaller as your, vehicle logo, I guess, on the rear end of your car. So typically it would say, RAV4 there, but in this case, I'm happy it's written in large that says Sequoia on the back. The only small decal they've added on the rear end of this vehicle is going to be in the bottom right corner, which will say iForce Max, because the new Sequoias are only offered with this powertrain, which is a hybrid, which is nice because a vehicle this size, obviously you'd want to be saving some gas versus some competitors on the market. Now, couple cool things that you do get on this vehicle straight from the factory in Canada. Number one is going to be this cover down here, which is going to be for your tow hitch. So all you have to do is throw a ball mount on it with a ball, and then you can tow up to about 9,100 pounds. So anything larger, a smaller utility trailer, a boat, even like a small little, pop-up camper, you'd be more than happy with this vehicle to actually tow that for you and your family with all the space that this vehicle offers. With another really good convenience feature, you can actually open up this rear glass by simply hitting this little black button here. You pop it open and you can load anything in. So if your car was packed all the way full, you could at least throw stuff in to make it more accessible for you and your family, throwing, any last minute things up to the cottage into the rear trunk of this vehicle. Now it also opts in with your kick sensor, so you can put your foot underneath the rear bumper and that will open up the trunk for you, which I think is obviously a very convenient feature. Now, if you guys saw that on camera, because sometimes it's a little bit harder to actually see, your rear turn signals and lights back here are going to be sequential and LED. So it just gives the vehicle that much more of that premium look. And I think Toyota has done a pretty good job in styling this, huge SUV that we offer. Now, with the rear seats currently up, you actually still have quite a bit of usable storage space. So these are the mats you get with the vehicle. The summer mats are here, the winters are inside, and obviously this is still going to be giving you quite a bit of space on the rear trunk space for this vehicle. Another cool thing that they do offer is that you can actually move around this loading height, and you can actually put these shelves in on each side of the vehicle. So in case you had, a stack of different groceries or, a couple gift sets or some small things you didn't want to be like, slamming around in the back and you want to actually kind of, separate them in the rear, you can do that with this vehicle, which I think is a pretty cool, option to at least have just in case you and your family had stuff to throw into this vehicle. Now, this is going to be one way you can configure a Sequoia. You can also configure it as an 8-passenger. This is going to be a 7, so it's going to have a bench seat in the second row. We're going to take a closer peek to look on the inside of this to see what this vehicle offers, because there's quite a lot on it. So let's go in and check it out. All right, guys, let's take a closer peek onto the inside of the Sequoia. Now, this vehicle is going to be our largest SUV that we currently offer, and you definitely feel that being on the inside of this vehicle. Now, a lot of things are laid out here and it's very accessible for users. And that's something that I noticed when this vehicle was, refreshed. They did a very good job to make the layout newer, but also keeping it very, user-friendly in case you were one of those people that had the old generation Sequoia or were just looking to getting into a newer SUV, that you don't feel overwhelmed on the inside, with all the capabilities this vehicle does offer onto the interior. Now, a couple things that I will be saying on this specific trim level that I'm a huge fan of. Number one, you get power passenger and driver seats with genuine leather, which are heated and cooled, just like your second row as well. Both people in the second row, there's no bench, just the captain seats. Those ones will be heated and cooled, which is obviously just giving more, features, I guess, for anyone else you'll be having inside of this vehicle. A few other things that I also love on this vehicle, which if you see my previous videos, I'm a huge fan of a moonroof. So having this open definitely makes this vehicle feel even bigger than it is. And it actually feels very large when you're driving it. Typically on a vehicle, I've never really said in any of our lineups so far that I feel too big on the road. You definitely feel, you know, in charge, I guess I could say. So you definitely feel a bit higher up and a bit more in power, especially with everything this vehicle does have to offer. A couple things though I will be saying that I love. If you go onto your infotainment system in this vehicle on this Platinum grade, this is going to be a 14-inch touch display with wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, all the good stuff. You go down here to this little vehicle logo, I guess, and then hit seat controls. From there, you click the only option, which is massage, and you either then pick your driver or passenger. So I'll pick driver in this sense. I will go to say upper body, turn the power is going to come on, and your intensity. You've got 5 different levels. And now the rear of my seat is actually kind of pushing out on my back, which is really nice. I think that it is a new feature that we've added onto some of our 2025s. And I think that it's one of those things that kind of, you know, make a trim level like this feel a little bit more premium, because if you're taking this on a long road trip, just having your back kind of moving in a different way definitely would make you feel, I guess, a little bit more, you know, at ease while you're driving, say for 5, 6, 7 hours, or doing, you know, some kind of long road trip over, you know, a course of a few days. Now that's standard on this vehicle. And I think that that mixed with say your JBL sound system, your digital rear view display mirror up here, your largest screens, your full digital tachometer in front of you, it does offer a lot of great capabilities onto the inside, and you don't have to do, you know, a whole lot. Like, it's very simple to simply, you know, navigate through this screen or navigate through all of my controls down by my left knee down here. So for example, if I was towing something and I wanted to pop out my mirrors, I simply push out this button that pushes out my mirrors, and then very simply my mirrors would then push out, so that if I'm towing something, I can see way more of actually what is behind me. Now, with a vehicle being this size, I'm just gonna move the key up here next to the wireless charger. You can obviously have a lot of spots and different space, I guess, in this vehicle to throw stuff in. So if you pop open in the middle here, you've got 2 cup holders here. You actually theoretically have 2 as well in both of your doors. So you're gonna have theoretically 6 up front with another 2 right here. Now, these are gonna be built, I guess, maybe for the passengers in the back, but they also have cup holders in the, you know, in between their center console there. So you do have a lot of usable space. You definitely look into the middle of your storage down here as well. You have quite more spots to put, you know, whether that's a laptop, an iPad, charging cables, anything like that. So I think they have done a really good job to kind of give you that larger feel on the inside of this vehicle, but also still giving you a lot of practical space. And I think that some manufacturers on the market and other vehicles in the market these days, you get a vehicle that's massive like this, but on the inside it feels a little bit more cramped, or there's maybe not enough storage space for, you know, an everyday user. So I think Toyota has done a very good job to add that in. Now, the last thing I will be saying on this vehicle, which is going to be more catered for someone if you're going to say off-road this vehicle, or if you're towing something and you want to change around what the vehicle is actually doing. You have all of your different drive modes down here, your tow and haul, which you have 5 drive modes, and you can obviously then shuffle between your 2 high, 4 high, and your 4 low. The really cool thing that I think that, you know, people would pay for on this vehicle, which I don't really think is really standard on a whole lot of our vehicles, but it makes sense coming in at this price point, and obviously with the tow capabilities that this vehicle does have, is that this different settings down here, you've got 2 different modes with either manual or this one that kind of shows the Sequoia with 2 arrows. You can actually push this down and the vehicle has adaptive air suspension in the rear. So if you're, say, towing something that you need a little bit lower of the ball to actually drop down to, say, match up with the trailer, or you kind of want to offset that weight to make it easier to drive, you can do that. And I think that's a really cool feature that they can throw into the vehicle to either, say, get you unstuck in a situation or to tow something. They have done a pretty good job, you know, well equipping a vehicle at this price point, and as they should. You should be buying a vehicle that has a lot of features. Whether you use it or not, it's just great to obviously have it. The only one thing I'm going to be saying on this vehicle that I'm not a huge fan of on this grade specifically, maybe if the outside was a different color, I would be more in favor of this, but I'm not a huge fan of all of this blue stitching on the inside. I think that having that blue, it's cool, it's unique. You typically don't see a whole lot of that on the market, or say in a manufacturer like Toyota, but I think that I would much rather that be either white or just black, or maybe, you know, a cool mix could just be color matching the actual outside color, which would kind of give you more of what, what the outside's doing versus the inside of the vehicle. That's just the only thing I think I would be, say, adjusting on this vehicle. But other than that, I think that on the inside and outside, they have done a pretty good job to well equip it. Now, I'm gonna jump into the rear just to see what the space is like onto the second and third row. So let's go on and check it out. Alrighty, now jumping into the rear seats of the Sequoia. Now, I'm more than comfortable back here. I think that this being our largest SUV, I should be feeling comfortable. If you're having people that say are a bit taller like myself, I want to feel very comfortable in the rear seats. Now, in the third row, maybe not so much, and that's okay. I'm happy at least they have usable space, whether this is a 5-passenger in the second half of this vehicle, so a bench and a bench, or like this one, captain seats with the bench in the rear. I still think that is, giving more families and more customers that accessibility getting into the third row. And I think I would configure mine this way. I think not having the bench, if I didn't need the 8 passengers, just simply getting in and out, this makes it so much easier. Rather than dropping the bench and moving the seats forward, you could actually walk all the way back and then obviously scoot yourself back into the third row there. Now, sitting back here, a couple things that I will be noting that like I mentioned in the front, cup holders there's a lot in this car, and they've kind of overkilled the cup holders, but that's okay. It's better to have too much than too little, I think. So you've got 2 in the middle here, 2 in the middle up here, and then in your door, you theoretically could put another 1 or even 2 if you drop the water bottle and laid it flat. So again, storage space is huge on a vehicle like this, and they have delivered in a very big way from Toyota's side. If you're ever in the back of one of these and say the sun's coming in, I like how the fact that this has built-in sun shaders. So you simply pull this up. It's really easy to do so. There's a clip here and a clip on the back, which just makes it very accessible for anyone in the rear, just in case it was a bit, sunny outside and you didn't want to close the moonroof all the way. This is a pretty good option that obviously comes standard from Toyota. Now, the only thing getting into the rear of this vehicle, there are a couple things that they have added, which I think, at this price point, I would assume, but it's nice because into the third row behind this seat, it's kind of awkward to reach back there right now, but you can actually retract the third row with a simple push of a button. You push a button, hold it down, and the seats will actually retract for you. So again, it's way more accessible, but then again, I also do like the feature of just pulling a tab and the full thing comes down all in one. So if you had, groceries and your hands were full, that's definitely making it a bit more accessible for anyone into the third row. However, talking about the third row, I'm gonna jump back there. It's probably not gonna be the most comfy for someone at my size, but I'll at least take a seat. I've actually never sat in the third row of a Sequoia before, so I'm kind of interested to see what this does versus, say, a Grand Highlander, because that's probably the closest thing size-wise that you'll be getting with, usable space. So let me climb back there, and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, now we're in the third row of the Sequoia, and probably by the way you're looking at me right now, I'm not sitting the most comfortable. Now, I do have the option, and I guess all 3 passengers in the back do have that option to actually recline this even further. So I have a button on my side, I simply push it, and I'm kind of like lounging now. So that actually made it way more comfortable for me. I don't think I would be complaining. Maybe if I was a little bit claustrophobic, which I actually am. So maybe eventually if this was all the way packed and I had all my buddies sitting next to me, maybe it wouldn't be the most, I would say comfortable ride that sense in actual space back here. But if you're talking about if I fit, I do fit. So that is pretty crazy that I could be fitting into the third row of one of our SUVs. Now, if you want to just simply retract this, I'm going to ask for Alex's help, and he's simply going to hold a button. This will fully fold flat for me, which is actually pretty nice. And with that down, that actually gave me way more space. So I'm more than happy here now. If I had all 3 of these seats taken up, it might be a little bit more different. But I think that with this being said, I'm actually pretty happy here. And you do have that option into the trunk. You do have buttons in the rear of this trunk to actually fold these seats down and your actual middle row too. So I think that, accessibility wise, they have done a pretty good job. Now, talking cup holder theme, which I mentioned there's a lot of in this vehicle, you still get a lot into the rear. So I've got 2 on my side, there's 2 on this side, There's a small little cubby down here, which you can't see, but there's not a whole lot you could put into it. I would say maybe the size of a phone, but it does have a USB charging port on top of that. So it's at least nice giving some, charge to, your third row passengers. You don't have to be in the second or in the first row. You can definitely get a charge anywhere that you're sitting on the inside of this vehicle. And now, similar to the middle row, like I was mentioning, you actually get built-in sun shaders on the rear of this vehicle too. So in case you're in like a sunny spot, or you just wanted that closed up, you actually do get a little bit of privacy if you ever needed that into the third row. But all in all, I actually think they've done a pretty good job. And this versus, say, a Grand Highlander, I know they come in at different price points. There's different engines, there's different powertrains, a lot different power, different capabilities of this vehicle. But I know that if you're, say, upgrading from a Highlander, say a Grand Highlander Hybrid Max, to an entry-level Sequoia, yes, you are moving up quite a bit on the dollar side of things, but I'm interested to see what you guys would think of if you say, this was in your budget as well, but obviously if this was in your budget, the Grand Highlander Hybrid also would be. Which one would you rather go for? Do you think you're getting more value for money on a Sequoia side, or is it a Grand Highlander side? Because these vehicles are pretty similar in the sense of how many people they can carry, different features on the inside. It's mainly just space is a little bit bigger on this. It's more of that boxy feel, even from the outside, but it's more true on the inside. You definitely feel like this is just as wide as the back than it is in the front. So I think Toyota's done a pretty good job, but I'm interested to see what you guys say down below. What's going on, guys? It's Aiden with Upper James Toyota again, and today I'm going to be featuring a very, very rare vehicle to have. This is our new test drive unit. It's a 2024 Grand Highlander Hybrid Platinum Max, featured in Storm Cloud Blue. Let's take a closer peek, see if this vehicle works for you. Please do remember to subscribe so you do not miss any more of our Toyota-related content, and let's check out this car. Okay, so taking a look onto the front end of a Grand Highlander Platinum Max. So a couple of great things you're gonna be seeing off the front end. Fog lights, which you will be getting on a limited model as well. I love the new headlight style and the boxier look of this. This compared to a regular Highlander is much bigger. I did a comparison video before on this as well. So space has increased on this vehicle. This being the Platinum though, you'll be getting a 2.4 4-cylinder paired up with our Turbo Max system over here. This will be making an output of 362 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. Those are some serious numbers coming from Toyota in their top of the model for a 7-passenger vehicle. Now, there's a lot of other cool little quirks and features on this vehicle, a lot of them being on the inside. We'll take a peek at them and we're gonna see how they work for you and your family. So let's take a closer look at some of the exterior features on the Grand Highlander Platinum Max before we jump into it. One thing onto the side of the vehicle you will be noting is that the vehicle comes with 20-inch alloy wheels. Now, on a vehicle of this size or any larger vehicle, I like the look of a larger wheel. I think it fills the wheel gap much better and it makes the vehicle look a little bit more premium in my opinion. With this being a black and a silver wheel on even a blue car, which is this new color for 2024 for us, I actually like the color contrast between the two. Now, talking about any accessories or stuff like that on the vehicle, we have opted in to add this little strip down here, which is on both sides, which is called body side moldings. Now, what this will do, it's gonna paint match the color of your vehicle. What that's basically gonna do is any small tight parking spots, anytime you are parked the vehicle, if anyone opens up the side door, you will not be having to replace the entire door panel. You'll just simply peel this piece off, get a new one ordered, and replace it for a fraction of the cost. Now, moving on to the rear. One big thing that you will see that is very different versus a regular XLE or a Limited, the other two trim models you could be getting on a Grand Highlander, that's a gas or a hybrid, you're gonna be getting dual exhaust pipes, which I actually really like. I think that makes the vehicle look a little bit more sporty, and it's also very, very fitting for a vehicle that's going to be our most powerful version of the 3 different trim levels. Now, another thing that is interesting onto the Grand is that you will be seeing, it reads Grand Highlander built into your rear bumper here, which will color match the color of your vehicle. So it's going to be blue in this case. Now, opening it up, another really cool and interesting feature about this vehicle, it has the kick sensor to open or close your trunk. So it's obviously gonna alleviate any obviously hand space or loading stuff enough into the vehicle. One cool thing too, which I will show you when we're inside the car, is when you're actually reversing, there is a mode you can press. It's a new thing onto our 2024s. On some specific models, you can actually hit a button which will wash your rear camera. A small little thing that Toyota has done to obviously alleviate any, salt marks, fingerprints come the winter time, so that you and your family can be more than safe reversing this big vehicle. Looking onto the interior of the Platinum Max. A couple things to note. It's interesting, I've actually only sat in ever one of these before. The one thing to note is that there's gold trim everywhere. It's in the seats, it's in the stitching, it's around your center console here, your shift knob, your screens, your steering wheel. Kind of interesting, and the only, I'd say, outlier versus this and any other Grand Highlander, you would never get this gold trim on any other models other than this one. So I think it's kind of interesting what they decided to do. They've integrated this new shifter that has come directly from the 2023 Prius. So I did a video on the Prius before, and I stated that I like the shifter feel. It definitely takes some time to get used to. However, once you're comfortable with it, it actually makes driving and the decluttering of your center console actually pretty usable for an everyday driver, which I think is a great option to include on this one. This being a Platinum Max, you are going to be getting a couple things versus a regular Limited that you would not be getting. One big thing, you have heads-up display. So it's going to display your speedometer on the actual windshield for you. So you don't have to look down at your digital tachometer just to see how fast you're going. It'll also display what gear you're in, any road signs ahead with the new safety sense features that are featured in this vehicle. So it kind of is catered towards the driver and obviously making life a little bit easier for them. The only thing that's actually not an option on any other two trim levels are going to be paddle shifters as well. You get those on a Grand Max, and this is going to be a 6-speed automatic gearbox in this vehicle. So if you want to put the car into manual, have some fun with it like that, you're more than welcome to do so. And believe me, this will get going pretty quickly. You will be getting driver memory seats, which are going to be heated and cooled for passenger, driver, and the second row. So if you have anyone in the second row, that's obviously a really nice add-on to have as a feature standard in a vehicle. Paired with that, a 12.3-inch touchscreen display, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, Sirius XM, built-in JBL sound system, panoramic moonroof. You'll be getting all of the wireless charging capabilities in this vehicle with a lot of USB-C ports and a lot of cup holders, like I mentioned in a previous Grand Highlander hybrid video. I love the look of it on the inside here. I think the one thing that I never really captured when I first saw one were the actual seats. Now, they're leather filled with some like Alcantara or like a suede insert, and I just think it looks very premium, obviously for the dollar that you're spending on a vehicle like this. So this vehicle will be here as a test drive unit. So if you want to drive this, it'll be an appointment-based test drive for this vehicle. I definitely encourage anyone to come down to look at it just to see, what you're going to be getting in a fully loaded Platinum Max. Now we're going to take a step into the second row of the Platinum Max. I've already been through the third row and the second row in a comparison video I did before on this channel between the regular Highlander and a Grand, but that was an XLE. So it came with a bench. This one and a Limited model will only come configured as a 7-passenger or with captain's chair. So I'm going to see kind of what that looks like in the second row, and then obviously from there, if you guys want to come in to take a peek at the third, fit any small kids in there, or because they now are adult size with the third row, you could fit anyone in the back to see if that works for you and your family. Okay guys, so just like the front seats, the rear seats also have some of the gold. Gold stitching, gold inserts, gold around your center, removable console in the middle of the two seats back here. I left the seat exactly where I was, and this is a very large vehicle. So you're supposed to be holding adults in this vehicle, and you would have no problem doing so. I definitely do like, onto the second row, how they've really catered to making the driving experience not only great for the upfront passengers, but the rear, center, middle row passengers yet as well. So you have your own climate control. You can set your fans, how hot you want it in here, which is great for anyone sitting back here, as well as your heated and cooled seats. So if you've seen my previous videos, the one big thing that I love in any vehicle is going to be a panoramic moonroof. That is standard in a Limited model of this and the Platinum Max. However, I'm such a fan of having this into any kind of vehicle. I think the way that the vehicle has now opened up has just made being on the inside that much more enjoyable. The storage in a Grand is something that they've definitely excelled in, And I've driven these cars before. I don't have a whole use of using a second row or a third row just yet in my personal life. However, a vehicle like this, and if something like storage space and having the practicality of maybe having a vehicle with all that space, but it not feeling too cluttered, this could be a really good option for you. You've got a storage compartment in the middle here, storage in both doors, cup holders everywhere. Your center console has a massive storage bin as well. The third row also has a lot of storage. So this could definitely be a very, very good family car. If you're a larger family, say a 5 or a 6-person family, that's not to say someone with, a 4-person family wouldn't like this either. You can fold down the third row, have all the space in the world, so definitely come and check this out as your next vehicle. What's going on, guys? It's Aiden with Upper James Toyota, and today I'm going to be reviewing a new remodel design for one of our new SUVs. It's a 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser First Edition, limited to 290 units. We're gonna take a closer peek to see the differences between this and a regular Land Cruiser and see if this works for you and your family. All right, so let's talk some numbers, guys. Under the hood of the new Land Cruiser is a 2.4 turbo 4-cylinder with the new iForce Max system. Now, this being a 4-cylinder, it's still making some crazy power. 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. That is to the all-wheel drive system, added with a 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, looking on the front end of the Land Cruiser, now this being a first edition, it's gonna share a front end very similar to a 1958. You're getting these retro LED circular headlights, which I actually think look really, really cool on a vehicle like this. You can get either the round ones or the more squared off versions, depending on the package that you get. Onto the front end down below as well, you'll be getting rigid fog lamps as well, which actually say rigid throughout both sets of fog lamps on the front end of the vehicle. Now, if you're looking at the front, I like the boxy look that Toyota has done with the Land Cruiser. The outgoing model had the boxy look as well, and I'm happy they kept that onto this new refreshed, redesigned version of it. I think they've done a great job with the Toyota logo across the front. I like the different coloring on the front grille as well. It definitely makes the vehicle look a bit different and look a bit more of a mean off-road vehicle that obviously you can transport with you and your family. Now, looking onto the side of the new Land Cruiser, this being a first edition has a couple interesting things that a typical Land Cruiser do not come with. We're gonna start with the wheels. Even though this is theoretically a fully loaded Land Cruiser, you could option this with 20-inch alloys. You actually getting 18-inch alloys on this package, specifically because this vehicle is meant to be going off-road. So you want a bit of a smaller rim with a more beefy off-road tire. Behind the wheels on both sides, you actually have a mud flap, which you can actually hold up. So if you're ever going off-roading, you're not worried about actually denting or ripping off a mud flap on any 4 corners of the wheels for your vehicle, which is a really, really cool, something very, very small that Toyota has done. And it actually says First Edition on the back of all of the mud flaps, which is a cool little feature they have added. With that being said, you'll be getting a rock rail on the sides of the vehicle too. It's basically gonna be deflecting any big rocks, anything like that. Say you are off-roading this and you're going over any big stones, for example, it's not gonna be damaging the side of the vehicle. It will just be rubbing up against the rock rail, which actually does feel pretty solid. Now, on the top as well, you get a 2-tone split roof. So it's trail dust exterior with a light gray roof on the top, which I actually don't mind. I wasn't too sure when I originally saw the pictures of this, what it would look like in person, but I actually think they've done a very, very good job. Now, on top as well, you will notice you actually have a little like roof rack, I guess I could say. You could basically tie in any bikes, any equipment, stuff like that, that you would be taking off-road or even up to the cottage. You necessarily don't have to off-road this vehicle to actually use all the capabilities of it, but this specific first edition is going to give you a couple more exclusive things that the other trim levels will not get you. Now, taking a look onto the rear of the Land Cruiser, I think they've done a very, very cool job at keeping it not only boxy on the front, but boxy on the rear as well. This little interesting cover right here is just for your tow hitch. You can obviously pull it off and then tow anything with the vehicle that you would like. But a couple of really, really cool features that I'm a huge fan of are going to be a couple things onto the rear glass of this vehicle. So if you push this little button in the left corner right here, you push this and you can actually pull this open. So it's your rear glass. Super simple to pull up. Doesn't take a lot of effort to pull it up either. So say you're in a very tight parking spot, you didn't have much space to actually open your trunk, you can actually throw stuff in that way and make it a lot easier to load stuff in and out of your vehicle. And then simply pushing this down, which is simple to do, can obviously close that up for you. Now, going into the rear of your Land Cruiser as well, trunk will actually open up decently quick. I know I talked about that in the previous video with a Highlander versus a Grand Highlander, but I think that one little feature is also very, very nice. They have interesting lighting in the back of the Land Cruiser as well. So actually the two lights for your trunk are directly above me. So they're actually on the outside of this wall here. And I think that's obviously going to cater very, very well into someone that's gonna be loading anything in or out of their vehicle late at night. All right, guys, now taking a step on into the 2024 Land Cruiser. So a couple of things to note. You definitely sit a little bit differently in this vehicle versus any other of our SUVs. And I'm not really too sure how I can describe it to make it obviously make sense for someone watching this video. But the way that, you know, the steering wheel sits, the way that stuff is catered towards the driver, the different modes down here, the layout of the armrest with a bit of a lower armrest on the door, it is a little bit different on one of our SUVs rather than the RAV4, say like a Venza, something like that. But what I will say is being on the inside of the vehicle, one thing I've noted, and I've done videos like this before in the past, is that I've always talked about the difference between Lexus and Toyota. I will say one thing is that the finishes and the feel of this vehicle in particular is very, very premium. You feel the nice seats, you feel the lumbar support, even the leather on the headrest and the armrest, for example, it definitely feels a bit more premium like any of our other SUVs that we currently have on the market. And honestly, you want that, especially coming in at this price tag that one of these will come in at. Now, with that being said, a couple of big things and the big takeaways I have noticed being on the inside of the Land Cruiser. Built-in JBL sound system always sounds great. Heads-up display is a big fan favorite of mine. I like this 12.3-inch display here with your full multimedia display, which is fully digital. There's no more needles, nothing like that on it. You have a digital HomeLink mirror, so you can basically add this up to any garage doors, or you can basically flip it forward and it'll actually show you on the rear, by the rear glass, a little mounted camera to show you anything behind you in case you had people or stuff in the back seats that you actually couldn't see with the rear view mirrors. Now, with that being said as well, paddle shifters on a vehicle at this size and at this performance level, I do like as well. If you're gonna take this off-road, you have all your different rear diffs locks down here, your different drive modes for off-roading or whatever you will be doing in your new Land Cruiser. But I do like the way that this wheel is actually, you know, what they've done to the wheel. They've kind of kept the boxy look on the outside, and they've actually added a bunch of these little boxes on the inside of the Toyota steering wheel now. I like how they've also written Toyota directly across, and it's not just the actual emblem of Toyota, it's an actual, they wrote out Toyota across the steering wheel. I think it's another really, really cool touch to what they have done in this vehicle. For a vehicle at this size, obviously you have driver memory seat on the driver. You're going to be having 8-way power adjustable seat for your secondary passenger in the vehicle, wireless charger, 3 USB-C ports, 1 lightning port as well. One thing I will note too is even on the vents of this vehicle, they've made it look very boxy and kept some of the dark gunmetal, you know, gray looking features on the outside grille and added it onto the inside. So by the shifter here, it's all this interesting gray. The stitching on the seats, the dash, your cup holders, your center arm console is all that same kind of gunmetal gray. So I kind of like how they've kept something on the outside back onto the inside. Now, obviously this vehicle being what it is meant to do, which is off-roading, it is a very, very comfortable and a very, very cool vehicle to off-road if that's something you're going to be doing. However, if you're not, it's still a very, very practical car. It's pretty cool. You could be driving around in a Land Cruiser that you could tell someone's limited to 290 units. I think it's very, very interesting what they have done, while also adding a few little cool things around the vehicle, showing off the differences between a first edition and any other Land Cruiser that we offer. All right, guys, now let's take a step into the rear of the Land Cruiser. So now, shutting this door, I will definitely say this is very, very spacious. I don't think I've jumped into a rear seat of one of our 5-seater SUVs thinking I have this much space. Obviously, this compared to say a RAV4, it's very, very different. They come in obviously at very different price points. They come with a lot of different features, so on and so forth. However, this honestly makes it feel like this could actually be a 7 or 8 passenger vehicle. I think they've done a very, very good job at basically allowing this, you know, this bigger vehicle, this boxy vehicle, you know, a cool feel for someone even sitting in the back seat. Now, you roll down the middle armrest here, 2 cup holders on the side. You're gonna have 2 cup holders in both the doors as well. Air vents on the back with your rear climate control, 2 USB-Cs and 120 volt as well to keep anything charged up. I think what they have really managed to do in a vehicle at this size and price point is keeping it similar to the outgoing model. And I know it's a late generation vehicle. It's interesting to be bringing this vehicle back to market now, so many years later. But what I will say is they have kept this vehicle very off-road focused, very comfortable in case you're not even off-roading the vehicle, and very practical for even you and your family to be driving around not only safe, but also very, very comfortably. Okay guys, now let's talk some numbers for the 2024 first edition Land Cruiser. This vehicle is coming in at $90,390. So it is a very, very premium buck to be spending on a vehicle. But if you're looking for that retro old vehicle that's now been refreshed for 2024, this is a very, very cool SUV to be, bombing around town in. Now, with this being said, this vehicle is only optioned in 2 different color schemes, so it's definitely something to note. You either get this one trail dust with the gray roof, or you get the heritage blue with the gray roof. Those are the only 2 color options you can be getting on this vehicle, and obviously limited to 290 units. I would definitely say if you're looking to get one, get an order in as soon as possible for this vehicle, as they're already been rolling out to dealerships. So to get your hands on one of those 290 of them, it's going to be a little bit more challenging versus some other vehicles that we have. Now, with the power that this vehicle puts out and the engine that's underneath the hood of this vehicle, you'll be getting an averaging about 10.1 liters per 100 on this vehicle, which isn't too bad considering this is a larger boxier SUV catered to the off-road style of driving. Please do note this vehicle does take premium fuel. So it's one of our very, very few Toyota vehicles that we actually have in our lineup that have to take premium fuel. So it's definitely something to consider when thinking about getting behind the wheel of a new Land Cruiser. All right, guys, thanks so much for checking out my 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser First Edition video. If you did like this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe so you do not miss any more of our future Toyota related content. And we'll see you guys in the next video.